Okay, good evening. Hi. Hi. Hello. Well, I'm Alan Malloy, and this is our Monday night class here, where we do sort of introduction to Buddhist meditation and some elements of Buddhist philosophy. It's not a course on Buddhist philosophy, nor is it a course on meditation. It's more of an opportunity just for us to, well, really spend some time together and get away from our normal habitual behaviour, I suppose. We're sort of so busy with things and doing things that it's very few people stop, and I suppose that's goes to show here only a few people come to classes or events where you're told you have to stop. Whereas if you say, we're going to have an event and we want you all to go, 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 we're going to have excitement and movement and distraction, and you get the MCG full of it, don't you? The MCG is full on the weekend. The excitement, action, drama, pain, suffering, gain and loss, sort of a winner and a loser. But here, it's only very exceptional people who realise that the really important thing in life is to be able to stabilise your mind, is stillness. It's actually stillness, because stillness in the mind is peace. We tend to think, and peace is happiness. We tend to think that doing stuff and having lots of engagement in a whole lot of things and embedding yourself in stuff, in people, in actions, and getting feedback from people about how you're going is the way to happiness. But it's not. It's actually an endless, fruitless pursuit that never gives deep happiness. Whereas if we go internally and just meditate and become still and understand their deeper nature, then we gain a really stable happiness, a really stable happiness, really stable peace. And also it's really easy. The good thing about this is, you don't have to buy a ticket. You don't have to book. You don't have to stand in a queue. You don't have to pay money. You don't have to, go through all that hardship. You go. Once you learn how to meditate and how to practice spiritual philosophy, you can actually do it all the time. Well, there's our teacher Geshe Dogi here describes how when he goes to bed he sleeps in a certain way and meditates during his sleep. So really it could be literally 24 hours a day where you can be meditating, literally 24 hours a day. But for us here, we've got sort of like an hour to hang out. This is not a lecture. I'd really love it if people felt free to, engage and, so feedback and make it a deeper experience, because it's really not that profitable just having all you guys and people staring at me for the next hour. I might get bored, I'll get tired though, so if you give me a break occasionally and come up with some comments or questions or things you want to share about your life, that's totally okay. Totally okay. Because the reality is you're all very special people. You've come here for a very special reason. The fact that there's maybe 25, 30 people in a room in a city of 5 million means that you are very special. You're very, very special. So don't underestimate yourself. You've already come a really long way to step through that door into this weird little environment of a Buddhist meditation centre. So anyhow, we'll be doing our classes are in 4-week blocks, and I'm doing this block, and we tend to just have a topic, but the sessions sort of run like a bit of meditation, maybe some questions, then a bit about Buddhist and Buddhist philosophical points, and the things that's suggested we talk about are like impermanence, death and reincarnation, so we understand a little bit about that. And then we can have some more questions and discussions. Oh, that's a good idea. Turn mobile phones off. That's a very good idea. Start with doing that, because that's the principal distraction. And then then there's the opportunity for a cup of tea and a chat up in the dining room. We'll finish by 9, unless there's a massive amount of questions or sort of comments that people want to share. Then finish about 9. So you'll be home bright and early and everything. So. Let's start. I'd probably like to know a little bit about you people. For a start, is anyone here tonight for the first time they've been to Tara Institute or anything? Oh, one person. Okay, cool. Well, thank you. Welcome. I hope it's okay. You too?
Oh no.
Okay. Oh, you live in your guys. I thought you put your hand up. Okay. Oh, good. Okay. Well, so Tara Institute is a Buddhist meditation, Buddhist study, Tibetan Buddhist meditation and philosophy centre. We follow fairly closely with the teachings of the Dalai Lama and our 2 founding teachers, who are Lama Sopa and Lama Yeshe. They're those pictures. Lama Sopa's on the right and Lama Yeshe's on the left, and they were the founders of it, and they founded it in the 1970s or so. And Tara Institute's been here since 1987. This was a home owned by the Catholic nuns, an order of Catholic nuns that looked after handicapped children, called Marillac House, when we bought it. It had many incarnations before that, going back to the mid-1800s, where it was a very stately home. I think J.B. Weir owned it and other people like that. So it was a very stately home, then had various owners until we got it. And this was a Catholic church. It got decommissioned, and now it's a Buddhist meditation centre. So, yep, what the heck? It's okay. So, but yeah, we're Tibetan Buddhists. So there are different sorts of forms of Buddhism. I'm sure many of you have been to Asia or come from other countries, and you see different people. There are sort of 2 streams of Buddhism. There's the Theravadan stream, which is found in Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, Burma, and through Southeast Asia and stuff. And then there's what we call the Mahayana stream, which was Tibet and China, Vietnam and Japan. And so slightly different emphases in the teachings, but you could probably say that all the teachings are fundamentally the same, but slightly different. Now, we're more of the Mahayana tradition. So that's what we study here, and very closely affiliated with the Dalai Lama, because I'm sure many of you know about the Dalai Lama and his story, that he's the 14th Dalai Lama, so the 14th reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, and he had to leave Tibet in the 1950s because China invaded, and fled to India, where he and hundreds of thousands of Tibetans sought refuge and became refugees. So the Dalai Lama is a refugee. And they set up their communities in India, and our teacher here, Geshe Doga, had to flee Tibet when the Chinese invaded. So he was a refugee, and he spent the first years of his life in India in a prisoner of war camp called Buxana. It was used by the British Army to house prisoners of war during the Second World War, and they were laid empty, I suppose, and then when the Tibetans arrived, they put them all in this ex-prisoner of war camp, and the Tibetan, and in that prisoner of war camp, the monks and nuns and the holy practitioners, they re-established the great universities, the great monastic universities were re-established in a prisoner of war camp, in the dirt and mud and barbed wire of India in the 1950s and 60s. And Lama Yeshe, I don't think Lama Yeshe actually went there, but he's similar. He escaped, or maybe he did, I don't know. But so around India, and then gradually the monastic institutions were redeveloped, and they thrive in India. So one day, if you've got time and the inclination, now that COVID's sort of okay, go to India, visit some of the monasteries or some of the Tibetan Buddhist centres. They're quite amazing. They're quite amazing. Very inspiring. Very, very inspiring. So we're just a little offshoot of that. We're like a bud here. a little droplet on the end of it. But still, we try our best and try to present, try to be a benefit to people. And the way we do that is by teaching meditation. So my experience in this is not, I don't have a lot of experience, but I've been studying Buddhist philosophy for about 40 years, so, and more, 45 years. So, and I've studied in a lot of the great monastic centres in India and elsewhere, and done a lot of retreats and things like that, and come to a lot of classes, but still it's never ending to learn. To learn is never ending. So, well, yeah, we just do our best. So we'll do some. So who's never tried meditating before? I suppose. Anyone never tried meditating? Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Meditation. I suppose. I'm sick of talking. Okay. What is meditation? Come on, you've all done it. What have you been doing? Somebody say something. What's meditation?
Being quietly without thought, and being in the moment.
Good. Sitting quietly without thoughts, being in the moment. Yep, good. Very good. So, yes.
Putting your focus or attention onto something else so that your mind is quieter.
Good. Putting all your attention on something else so that your mind gets quieter. You're good. Very good, that side. The right side of the room's doing good. The left side of the room, you've got to pull your socks up. Come on, give me something. Oh,
Allowing thoughts to just pass by.
Like it.
To not focus on, negatives or positives, just be sort of a blank canvas.
Oh, good. So allow the thoughts to pass by, sort of not saying whether negative or positive, so not being judgmental about them and giving yourself a hard time, maybe. Yep, good. Centre of the room. Oh, yes, okay, here we go.
Single-pointed concentration on the object of your choice, and you can hold your focus
Good.
without distraction.
Good. That's very important, yeah. Being able to focus your mind single-pointedly on the object of your choice. That's really important. I think that your choice, you're making the decision, as opposed to normal life where somebody else is telling you, like some ad screams at you, give me your attention. Some attractive thing happened, give me your attention. You hear something, you smell something, give me your attention. No, this is you taking control. Yeah. Okay, left side of the room. I'm not going to talk I'm not going to start again until you say something. Yeah.
Just quietening your mind or listening.
Quietening the mind or?
And listening.
Yeah, okay. So quietening the mind, stilling the mind, sort of, okay, good. Observing your mind. Observing your mind. Good. Observing the mind, yep. Yeah, yes, hello?
Start by paying attention to the feeling of your breath coming in
Cool.
and out of the end of the bottom of the nose.
Sure. Good.
Paying attention to that coming in and out.
Good. Okay, so now we're talking about, so paying attention to the breath coming in. That's good. So that's actually a good segue. I could have almost planted you to say that, because that's what we're going to do. Because now we need an object. I mean, the mind needs an object. The mind cannot be objectless, because what is the nature of the mind? We say the mind is clear and knowing. So that's what their definition of the mind. It's clear, so it doesn't have any form, and it knows. Now, to know something, you have to have an object. So it has to know an object. The mind is always knowing objects. You just look around the room and you've seen 100 objects. You listen, you see 100 sounds, you hear 100 sounds. You're touching, smelling, tasting, thinking. So the mind always has these objects. So the mind has to have an object. We can't really have an objectless mental state. I mean, we can have mental states where specific objects are absent, and that absence becomes a vacuity, and that's good. But there are purposes for that. We still have an object in that sense that's a vacuity, an absence of certain object. For example, we may say that the absence of conceptual thought in the mind. One of the meditations we do is we say, we're going to now do meditation where the absence of conceptual thought. but we're still observing the mind, but without its conceptual overlays. And then there are the ultimate meditations we do, where we do meditations and we have the absence of what we call inherent or independent existence. And at that stage we meditate on the object of the lack of independent or inherent existence of all phenomena. So there's no object appearing except for the absence of inherent existence or the absence of independent existence. And that is called emptiness. So we meditate on emptiness in that way. So there are different sort of objects, but the easiest one, and this is the best one. I still do it, everyone still does it forever, because by meditating on the breath, it's really good. It's really easy. It's really cheap. You don't need any props. And it's really good for regulating emotions too. Regulating the emotions to breathe, because when you get really excited, you tend to breathe fast and rapid from the chest, whereas when you do meditation on the breath, we breathe through the nose and we deep, and it naturally slows down, but it's a more complete cycle of breathing rather than the anxiety type panic. See people with panic attacks and sort of it's really bad. It's bad physically and it's bad mentally. But we tend to do that a lot anyhow in daily life. We tend to sort of breathe bad. Then when we get anxious or when we get angry or when we get hurt, our breathing rhythms change. So it's a good way of regulating the emotions just by breathing. Now, we don't do what a lot of yoga traditions do, where we control the breathing and maybe even stop the breathing or slow it down dramatically. We can later on, but for this we're just observing the natural rhythm. So if you breathe at 15 breaths per minute, you breathe at 15 breaths per minute. If it's 20, you do it 20. If it's 10, if it's 5, you probably... That's pretty cool, but that's pretty tough. Okay, so, but yeah, eventually there are yogi practitioners who can stop breathing, and then they can stop breathing and still stay alive. So it can be done. And obviously at death time we stop breathing. So in this and at death time then we can still meditate even after we've stopped breathing. That's the other thing we can do. So in this way, so we breathe, as Lewis said, we meditate on the air coming through the nose, into the lungs, down towards the navel, at the bottom of the diaphragm, and then we just sort of breathe up. And we breathe through the nose. That's assuming you can. Some people have got blocked noses, but if you can, it's much better. Always much better to breathe through the nose. Physically, mentally, it's better. It's also because the human body has a physical structure, this physical. Then we have the mind, which is mental, and then we have what we call the psychophysical aggregates. And the psychophysical aggregates are the channels, winds and drops, and the wind includes the breath. And as we go through here, there are the side channels that abut or below the central channel, and so the wind actually sort of can be thought of to travelling down those side channels, and then eventually later to enter the central channel and stuff like that. So there are purposes for this that are at one stage just really basic, really obvious, but they're a training for doing something quite complex and profound into the future. So it's simple, it's easy, but it's the doorway to profound change, profound transformation. So we'll just do this for 10 minutes now, because and so just get comfortable. Now you don't have to sit on the floor, don't have to have your legs crossed. But if you're sitting down, it's probably the main thing is to have your back really straight, because your straightness of your back determines your concentration. So if you're sort of like this, then it's not going to work. So you get lazy, and if you're too upright, it's sort of too alert. So just imagine, like, I think from the crown of your head here, imagine there was a little hook in there and you pulled yourself up, and all the vertebra and everything down to your pelvis and everything straightened up, and your shoulders a bit back but not rigidly back, and your elbows out a little bit. We tend to have our hands together like that with the thumbs touching, and then Yeah, just start by breathing in and out of the nostrils, and then we're just going to do this for 10 minutes, and you just try to keep your focus on the breath and don't think of anything else. Don't think of your body, don't think of the room, don't think of what you're going to do tonight, tomorrow, what you did today. Now is your time to have a break. So a 10-minute break from reality. Okay, we'll just start now meditating on the breath. Okay. When you're ready, you can stop meditating and just stretch or do whatever you need to do. Pretty okay. I think when you're meditating, it's good to have a little bit of regret when it finishes. To think, oh, I was enjoying that. That I wanted to continue. Then that regret will make you want to come back and do it again. On the other hand, if it was agony and you think, oh my God, it's over, then thank God for that. Then I suppose that's. You might not want to come back again, but anyhow, for me that was blissful. So I hope it was good for you. Depends totally on your mind, doesn't it? Really, because this is the perfect place to meditate. So that's a little bit about meditation. Now, in terms of Buddhist philosophy, we do a little talk about Buddhist philosophy. So the title it chose, well, this one actually was chosen for me, was on death and rebirth. That's because I'm also teaching contiguously at the same time as this. I'm teaching sort of an international course on this, on the line, and then and with the same title and subject matter. So I thought I'll be lazy and teach the same thing twice, once to you guys and then once to this international class, and that way I don't have to do too much revision. So I'm lazy, very lazy. But it's good because actually this is really one of the most profound topics, death and rebirth. I mean, what is death? I mean, for a lot of us, death is just the end, isn't it? It's the end. It's the end. Yeah, for a lot of people believe that. It's just the end. And then, but for Buddhists, it's the end of one process and the beginning of another, because we believe, and we have reasons to believe, in reincarnation and rebirth. So death is the entrance way into the next life, and then this cycle of being born has occurred sort of endlessly. There's no beginning to it, and no end until we stop creating the causes for rebirth. So there is an end to it. There is an end to uncontrolled rebirth, and then we can achieve that end, as many great beings in the past have. A bit like the Dalai Lama. I mean, the Dalai Lama is regarded by us as the manifestation of a Buddha of compassion, Chenrezig. So he, she, doesn't matter, no gender. He did not have to take rebirth, but he chose to out of his compassion, out of his great compassion and love for us. So that sort of rebirth is very different from probably our rebirth, where we're getting born in an uncontrolled fashion. And because it's reborn in an uncontrolled fashion, then we don't have any control over where we're going to be born, what circumstances we're going to be born in, and what that situation will be like. So, so to get a grasp on that, we then also have to understand a little bit about cause and effect, or what we call karma. Everything arises from causes. So there's nothing that's causeless. So our existence now, the way we are here now, came from causes. It didn't just happen like that. Now some people believe things, that there is no cause. And there were schools of philosophy, there are still schools, there are many people who believe that things are just chance. Okay, like we're all in this room by chance. We're all humans by chance. There's no cause, or we're here, there's no cause, we're just suddenly here. Now I suppose we have to sort of discuss that and think about that. Is it reasonable? I mean, the reason why I'm here is because I got told to be here. I mean, there's no chance at all, I just got told I had to be here. The reason you're here is you can look into your own lives, why are you here? Well, you got out of a car, you got out of a train, you got out of a taxi, you you got here, you walked here, or someone forced you to come here or something. I don't know. But there's reasons. It's not reasonless. It's all due to. So similarly, when we talk about rebirth and that, we believe we can understand rebirth by reasons, and it's not just a fantasy and stuff. It's not just a fantasy. It actually just. And so this life, it's very short. It's very, very short. And the problem is, would have been very, very short, is that it's also unpredictable. And when we're going to die, it could be tomorrow. It could be that out of this room of 25 people, someone does not make it home tonight, quite conceivably. And you've got plans to come here next week, hopefully because you've really enjoyed it, and great, I'm going to come back next week, and then you don't. And that person could be me. It could be, I'm making all these plans, what am I going to talk about next week, blah, 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 blah. And then there's no next week for me. So it's uncertain. So we have, it's not only is death certain, but the time of death is uncertain. And then what happens, what we have at the time of death, what is it that's really important? I suppose, look, you're all, there's no kids in this room. I will guarantee that everybody in this room has known death of somebody close to them. If you haven't, you will. But it's inevitable. And when you think about that person who maybe you loved, or you had some sort of relationship, maybe you didn't love, maybe you had a horrible relationship with, but still there was some sort of karmic connection. It's too late at death to repair, or to tell somebody you love them, or to ask for forgiveness, or to show a hand of friendship. It's too late. It's too late. And similarly for yourself, if you're dying, it's too late. That's right. So I suppose that's what gives. So what does help at the time of death? If we're going to go to the next life, or your relatives don't help you, your wealth doesn't help you, reputation doesn't help you, your body doesn't help you. The body definitely doesn't help. So the only thing that really helps is the mind. That's what we take. So we believe we take a subtle form of the mind into the next life, and with that on that subtle form of the mind are the karmic predispositions, which then determine what sort of life we'll have after this one. In terms of Buddhist philosophy, it's really cool. We've got all sorts of options for the next life. Because I was brought up a Catholic, and you didn't have many options. You had like heaven or hell, but then there were a couple of other ones. There was like limbo, and there was purgatory, and then there were other sort of, which I didn't really understand. I didn't really understand any of it anyhow. But anyhow, it sort of, you had a few options. But in Buddhist philosophy, Hindu philosophy, Jain, any of those cultures that believe in, you got lots of options. For a start, animals. I mean, we can be reborn as animals. So if we live like animals, then when we die, the karma to be reborn as an animal will probably ripen. And then there are other forms of life as well, all sorts of forms of life. There are some forms of life that are very exalted, much higher than humans, much higher, much more exalted, much more blissful. So we can look at this life with its impermanence as being really, well, it's really valuable, isn't it? Because we've got it. What can we do with it? Well, for a start, what can we do? We can come to Tara Institute on Monday night. We can learn about meditation. That's what we can do. Or we can sit at home watching Netflix. Or we can have a few beers and get smashed or something. Or have an argument with our partner. That's really productive. That's always a winner. How to spend an evening. Or you can take the dog for a walk or do something. I mean, there's lots of options, aren't there? But the thing that what will help at the time of death will be the cultivation of the mind we've done, and that will be to develop positive qualities in the mind. So the basic thing that brings all this about is what the Buddha taught in his first sermon. The Buddha was a remarkable person. 2,500 years ago, he lived in India, and remarkable. He was born a Hindu, and then developed his philosophy from that. A bit similar, I suppose, to the way Jesus was born as a Jew, and then his philosophy, he rekindled the philosophy to become Christianity. Well, Buddha in himself was born as a Hindu, but reformulated it and cut it down. I think cut out a lot of the, because I think that's what happens with philosophies and things. They become too complex and we lose the essence. So, Buddha cut it down to the real essence, and the real essence was his Four Noble Truths. So, the truth of suffering, the truth of cause of suffering, just the truth of cessation of suffering, and the truth of path. Now, each of these has four different aspects. Now, the first noble truth, the truth of suffering, has four aspects, but it's the first aspect is that everything's all produced phenomena. Everything that's produced from causes and conditions is impermanent. So that's what the Buddha. That's the first sentence. The Buddha said is that all things are suffering, and they have as their nature. All the things that we experience generally have the nature of suffering, and they are impermanent. So that really Buddha wanted to say that, right, that's the first thing I want you to know. And why is that important? Because, with impermanence, we have a natural view that things are permanent, especially younger people. As you get a bit older, you're forced to understand that impermanence is there. You undergo grief, you undergo loss, you watch your body change, you lose bits of your body. I mean, literally, we lose bits of our body as we age. Some doctor comes and takes them off, something happens. We lose a leg, we lose something, we lose our eyes, we lose our ears, we lose our kidneys, we lose something. Impermanence. So that is change. So that's the first thing. So we have this body now. What can we achieve with it? And we just have to look very, very closely at how to make the best meaning of what we have at the moment, because it's so fragile. It's just so fragile. This life is just so fragile. So the impermanence. That's what we start with. Impermanence. Just view everything as impermanence, because that counters our natural view that things are permanent. So impermanence versus permanent. We check out. Are things permanent? Are things permanent? Okay. I married somebody. I thought it was going to last forever. They were perfect. I was perfect. Everything was perfect. And then one day we realise it's not like that. So then suddenly it all disappears. And no more marriage, no nothing. We have a job. It's fantastic. Think, well, I'm going to be working in that. That's going to be fantastic. And then it doesn't happen. We have this physical form, this body, it's healthy, great, I can do anything I want, and then one day it doesn't, because of factors, all sorts of factors. So, view of permanence versus a view of impermanence. And so we have to counter, and we can do that we're going to do really, really simple meditation. It's just really, really simple. It'll just take 5 or so minutes, but so the first meditation we did was just on a single simple object, so it's just a single pointed meditation, a bit like what Ingrid said, something simple, like Lois said, it's just something simple. Now we're going to be doing a discursive meditation where we actually contemplate something. And discursive meditations have the capacity to transform attitudes, transform our mind. So by understanding things, how reality is, we can change our attitudes and we can change our opinions. Then that can change our emotions, it can change our reactions, especially our habitual reactions, and we can, guess what, we can become a better person. As a matter of fact, in our philosophy, we can become the Buddha. Okay. I don't think in Christianity they said that. They said we can, awaken some of those holy qualities, but I don't think I ever read that we can actually become God, or we can become Jesus or the Holy Spirit. No, I don't know. But in Buddhism, absolutely, we can become the Buddha. But we have to change our attitudes and have to change our perceptions, and that requires a lot of work. And the way to do that is to investigate reality. So, having stabilised the mind a little bit like that, now we investigate. So, we have the view of permanence, that things, that I exist permanently, that you exist permanently, this exists permanently, my car exists permanently, my job, my relationships, my friends, my family, but we know it's false. So we'll just do a little simple meditation like that. Look, a really simple one is to let's just do it today. I mean, you could do a really cool one, like from when you were born. Like you could go back. Let's go back. Yeah, right back. Yeah, here's the sperm and ovum. That was me, and they're mixing in the uterus or wherever they mix up, and that's me. There's an I there, and then that forms, and then that changes to a fetus, and then me, and then Then I come out. But I mean, that's a little bit. That's a bit much for a Monday night. So what we'll do, let's just think about today. Okay, you got up. You all got out of bed this morning. Or maybe some of you didn't. I mean, maybe someone here didn't even have a bed. You know, I don't know. Maybe you slept in the back of your car. I don't know. Sorry. But whatever time of day when you nominally woke up, okay, you were there. There was you. And you say your name. Alan, there you are, in bed. The alarm goes off. Alan's there. Great, Alan's there. He's in bed. What does Alan do? He turns the alarm off. Just get a bit more sleep. No. So that Alan who turned the alarm off got a bit more sleep. That first Alan, is he the same as the second Alan? Well, he's not really, because that first Alan made a decision, and that decision has now been a cause for some other result, and now so that Alan's changed. Okay, so then Alan got up. Then he washed his face. He cut off his beard. He cut off his hair. So some of Alan went down the sink. Actually, Alan cut his toenails this morning. So did some of Alan go down the sink with the toenails? I don't know. Is Alan his toenails? Why not? I mean, well, why shouldn't my toenails be me? We have to think about it like that, And then Alan did other things. Alan went to the toilet and had caca. So is my caca me? I mean, my poo me? Because it's here. It's in there now. I mean, is that me? So where's this Alan? Alan's changing all the time. And then Alan had something to eat. And so Alan brushed his hair, did his teeth, put on some clothes on, listened to the news, checked his emails, messed up a few appointments, and messed up an appointment with his blah in the morning, then went to work, then came back. Alan had something to eat. Thought, oh my God, I'm teaching tonight. What am I going to teach about? Yeah, turn on my computer again, print something out, have something. Sit down, pretend to meditate, come here, try to relax, try to do this. I walked in here. Is that Alan who walked in there the same as the Alan who sat down? Is the Alan now the same as the Alan who sat down? No, he's not. And the Alan who's speaking now, by the time I get to the end of this sentence, am I the same Alan? And then tonight when I go to bed, hopefully if I go to bed in this human body, if I make it home, then will I be the same Alan? All of us believe inherently that it's the same. We all believe. But by doing this simple meditation, and you can do it in a blink of an eyelid, it's just useful. It's just useful. So we're going to spend 5 minutes on this. It's you. It's your day. But who is that you? Find that you who is permanent. From the time you got up, all those things you did, and when you did your activities, where was that you? To now, and then extrapolate to tonight, what this you will do, and then this you will go to bed. And hopefully this you will wake up in the morning. Hopefully. Okay, so 5 minutes. I'm just not going to say much. I'm just going to say, right, meditate on yourself getting out of bed this morning. Find the you. Say your name. Say your name. Alan. Alan got out of bed. Alan turned the alarm off. Alan got dressed. Alan had something to eat. Alan. Where's the Alan? Try to find the Alan and see how he's changing all day. He had a bad mood. He had a good mood. He felt happy. He felt sad. Felt tired. Felt sleepy. Felt awake. Had some coffee. Felt great. It's okay. Look at that Alan. Look at that you. Okay. So we're going to do that 5 minutes. Okay. So just relax into whatever comfortable position you like to sit in. Okay. So there was a time when you woke up or got out of this morning, and there was a you there. Find that you. Then go through the day. Find into you in every activity you did. Until you walked in the door here, till you sat, then when you went home, until you go to bed. Where is that you? Is it impermanent or is it permanent? Find the you, the me. Okay. Now you, whoever you are, you can finish your meditation and we'll have a little chat. Okay. So that's sort of, I mean, just now, let's hear it. If you've got any, it's up to you now, that we've got another 5 or so minutes or so. Any questions, comments, experience? I mean, tell me something about your life, you know. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So the idea is that you're suggesting that we are not the same from moment to moment, and is that meant to make us feel that there is hope that we're not the same? What I'm a little bit lost as how you're trying to explain it.
No, that's a great idea. Yeah, I think you've nailed it. Yeah. Yeah, I love what you said, that there's hope. So the purpose of this meditation is to just realise you're not the same from moment to moment. I think you said and that there's hope. Did you use that word? There's hope. Yeah. Okay. I presume you're all here because you're not really happy with the way you are. So yeah, I'm not. I'm not. I want to change. I don't want to have my attitude. So what the word you said was hope is good, because supposing you have anger or something, and if you're always going to be angry, if you're always going to have anger, that's a horrible way to exist. I mean, or jealousy. Imagine if jealousy was permanent and you could never get rid of it. What a torture that would be. You'd be tortured day and night, or really strong, attachment, especially unfulfilled desire, unfulfilled wants. If you had those, it'd be just torture, absolute torture. People do. I mean, people kill others that they kill themselves because of jealousy, because of anger, because of attachment. So that's how dangerous it is. So if they were permanent, it'd be tragic. Life would be tragic, and life would be meaningless. I mean, what's the purpose of living if these horrible emotions, tragedy, death, grief, loss, if those feelings that we had, those emotions were permanent? Ending this life would be a noble option. But it's not like that. It's not like that. It's changeable. It is changeable. Our mind is changeable, and experiences are changeable. No matter what depth of despair we're in, it's not permanent. Even when that deep black hole of utter despair, that's still not permanent. So I love what you said there. That it gives you hope, and I think that's great. That's good. I'm glad you got that out of it, and you came to that conclusion yourself. So that's where wisdom. We develop, with a little bit of stimulation, people develop their own wisdom. I didn't say that. You develop that wisdom. So that's what happens. You develop your own wisdom. Yo, dude, a hand up. Yeah, you got first.
You said earlier, did you say we can prove all this evidence?
Yeah, cool. Ooh, proven card. Yes, this is good. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and the evidence. The evidence is really good. Okay. So to prove it by logic, then there's a proof is by scriptural citations, and then there's a proof by actual meeting people who've reincarnated and could talk about their lives. So, for example, I've had the privilege to meet the Dalai Lama and to spend time with him, and he has actually spoken to me about his previous lives, and he gave me a proof of why this particular life he was talking about was true, because of some of the things that he said that he couldn't have known from no one had told him about. So yeah, you can have the privilege or the experience of actually meeting people who've reincarnated. And if you hang around here, hang around these Buddhist places like go to India, Nepal, Tibet, you actually meet reincarnated lamas, and they're pretty cool. So they sort of, when you can touch, smell, hear and feel a reincarnated lama, I mean that's pretty amazing. Okay, so that's that experience. Then there's scriptural citations, scriptures, and the Buddha, for example, the Jataka tales are the stories of the Buddha's previous lives, and he just recounts all his previous lives. and then he goes through and how he was on the path to go to Buddhahood, and he just tells the stories of his previous life. And I was in Nepal just before COVID came. I was in Nepal, and there's one beautiful place there called Namo Buddha, or Tagi Luchin, which means giving your body to the Buddha. And this place in Nepal is a beautiful, peaceful place. And it's a place where the Buddha in a previous life gave his body to a tigress. There was he was a prince with his brothers or relatives or something wandering around, and they came in the forest. They came across a hungry tigress who was famished. She was dying, and she was so, and she had little tiger cubs, and they were trying to suckle and couldn't. And she was at the stage where she was going to eat her tiger cubs. The Buddha could see that. So he felt such great compassion that he decided to feed his body to the lioness. So he cut off some flesh, but the tiger couldn't eat it. So then he cut some blood and gave her some blood till she got enough strength that she could eat his body, and gave the mummy tiger his body, and then she was then able to feed and look after the kittens, tiger cubs, kittens, and they all lived happily ever after. And it was interesting, as a result of that, as far as I understand, if I can remember the story correctly, those tiger cubs and the tigress, as a result of the Buddha giving his body to them, they became his chief disciples when he attained Buddhahood in India 2,500 years ago. So that strong karmic relationship. So there are all those stories. So there's like scriptural citations. Now, the logic for it is, okay, this is hard to say in 25 words or less, and it comes to have to have an understanding of karma. Okay, there is cause and there is a result. There is cause, and that result becomes a cause for something else. Okay, so it's 9:02 now on my clock. The cause for that was 9:01, and 9:02 is the cause for 9:03, unless time stops. And that can, I suppose, if we go at the speed of light somewhere. But still, even if we're going to speed of light, my clock will still turn over to 9:04. Just that somebody else's clock will be 100 years or so. Anyway, so the cause and effect. So there's be cause and effect. Okay, so what's the cause of this body? It's obvious what the cause of this body is. It's a sperm and the chromosomes from the mother and father. They mingled. I'm a human body. Human body had born with male gender, blah blah blah, and then blah blah blah. So ethnicity, all that sort of stuff determined by that. So the body. Now, what's the cause of the mind? And we can see that in cause and effect, and we can trace it. We can trace it back to the sperm and the ovum, or the two chromosomes mingling, and that is the cause of my physical body. Now, when we look at the mind, and this is why we have to meditate, and why we have to do stillness meditation, because when we're in stillness meditation, and we can, or conceptual meditation, we can understand how this moment of mind is preceded by a previous moment, and this moment of mind, so the previous moment is the cause of this mind, and this moment of mind is the cause for the next moment, which is the result. So one moment of mind gives the result of the next moment of mind. That next moment of mind becomes the cause for the next moment of mind, and so on and so on. Now, if we were to continue this, if that is correct, so the mind has a continuum of moments. We could trace those continuum of moments back. So if we could remember them all, we'd be able to trace them back to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, to when we were an adult, a teenager, a child, a toddler, a baby, a fetus. And then we say, well, where did the mind come from at that stage? At the moment when the sperm and ovum came together, or the two chromosomes came together, that was the physical cause. That's obvious. Came from mum and dad. But this moment of mind, there was a moment of mind there. That must have had a previous moment. So the moment of mind when those two chromosomes came together, there was a moment of mind as a previous moment. So therefore we prove that there's a previous moment of mind before this life began when the two chromosomes. So therefore that is some sort of life existence, existing before the first moment of this life. So that's in a nutshell, that's it. Now in the Buddhist philosophy, we talk about a bardo state, which is a state in between lives. And we talk about how we die, and then if it's not appropriate for us to be reborn immediately because the karmic conditions aren't there, we can cycle through this intermediate state until we find the karmic connection with our parents and are born again. Having said that, there are different sorts of rebirth. We're talking about rebirth from the womb. There are different sorts of rebirth. There's a rebirth from eggs. There's instantaneous rebirth, like in various realms. And there's birth from heat and moisture and various things. So different sorts of rebirth. But for our process, we're talking about birth from the womb and everything. So different sorts of things. So that's in a nutshell how we do it. Now, it's got holes in it, but not bad for a Monday evening, late Monday evening, to at least think. Just think, so at that moment of when this life physically began, those two chromosomes mingle and and then form the cell which split into two. At that moment, when that one cell split into two, where the moment of consciousness, there was that continuum of consciousness was existing before that moment. So where did it come from? So it came from some other, for previous life. That's how we explain it. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, far away.
Just taking his comment of flipping it around.
Yeah, cool.
I understood the whole point.
Yeah.
The whole point coming from, I'm not feeling too good now,
Yeah.
but I hope that I will later feel better because things are transforming and changing all the time. And
Yeah.
It's an upside to this down point. But also there's a flip side to that, isn't it? So I might have a great moment at the moment.
Yeah.
And then there's all the dread later.
Ooh.
Yes, so I'm hoping for improvement, but I'm dreading the downside from this glorious moment.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
So that's the flip side of that coin.
Absolutely. Totally valid. Totally agree.
So what you were talking in terms of who is Adam?
Yeah, it was
Is Adam the one without before the shave or after the shave?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And I can see all of those changes. And I said that I looked at my day when you were inviting us to, and I realized what a merry-go-round of emotions,
Yeah.
feelings and changes it was because of where I was at and also because of external factors.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But aren't I the same person going through this merry-go-round?
Are you the same person going through this merry-go-round? That's the question, yeah.
Because I'm familiar with the idea that our cells change all the time, and in 7 years we'll be made of different cells, and therefore that person is supposed to die, another person. But isn't another way of explaining it simply to say, no, this is Pablo that has got these ups and downs in life, and they sometimes are nice and sometimes are not nice.
Exactly.
Whichever one it is, it won't last. It might last a little, it might last long, but it will eventually change.
Yeah, that's right.
So where is that self?
Yeah.
That you were invited, you were talking to us in a different language, you were talking to us as to which one, am I still that person as opposed to how I change, how I feel?
Yeah.
Would you like to?
Oh, no, I think you're onto it, mate. I think this is your job in life, is to find that self. That's it. I'm being absolutely serious too, because this is, if we can find that self that we're grasping onto as me, if we can find it, then it's either exists in the way it appears or it doesn't. At the moment, this self appears to us to exist permanently. Without analysis, we say, Babylon, your name Babylon, you got up this morning, you're the same now. You're going to go to bed tonight, you're the same. You get up tomorrow morning, you're going to be the same. Without analysis, absolutely. But are you? I mean, that's the question, are you? Without analysis. Then we analyse it. Wait a minute. So does that mean you don't exist? No, you do exist. There still is a Babylon there. There still is. But what is it? What is it? And that's I don't want to answer that. I think this is this is your homework to go home and find that self. Yeah, hello. Sorry.
My question is about memories of past lives.
Yeah.
How do you explain, like, someone who can
Yep.
recall what they
Yep.
their past lives, and then others have no
Yeah. Okay.
specific memory? Like, how do you reconcile?
But have you got memories of your past life?
I've had moments in meditation, like guided meditation, where I've visualised what you could perceive as a past life, or it could be just my imagination.
Yeah.
How do you tell the difference?
Yeah. Okay. Look through. Apparently, there are examples of people who normal people who especially in India, it was quite common where people could remember past lives, mainly children, and then they sort of got it. Well, I won't say beaten out of them, but they didn't get maybe the support or time. Memories failed as time and the life became complex, and they lost those memories. So it's said that when we're born, due to the trauma of birth, so trauma makes us lose memories. Trauma, severe suffering does, and things. So the trauma of birth. I think it said that when we're in the womb, we can actually sort of remember our past lives, but then as we go through the trauma of birth, we lose that memory. I think I've read that somewhere.
What about the trauma of death?
The trauma of death. Well, yeah, okay. Well,
Because death is traumatic.
well, if it's traumatic, it might not be. But yeah, if death was very traumatic, then we can talk about this. There's actually a death process, and it's possible to meditate on the death process and become very familiar with it. So when death occurs, we can actually know the steps of death.
That's if they occur in the right.
Well, yes, that's if they occur to it.
Dying a plane crash compared to having a heart attack.
Yep, yeah.
It's a different process.
That's right. It's very rapid in that case. Yeah. A bit like having an anaesthetic. When you have an anaesthetic, it just suddenly you're unconscious. But if it's the meditators who have taught us these practices are able to replicate the process of dying during meditation. They don't die, but they replicate the physiological processes of it, including stopping their breath. It's up. To engage the more subtle aspects of the mind. See, at the moment we can't access the subtle aspects of the mind because we're too busy with what we see, what we hear, what we smell, taste, touch and think, all those very gross things happening in the mind. Then when during death, all your sense consciousness don't work, and when you go through these meditative processes, so you're just left with the mind at its subtle nature, and then you go to more and more subtle and subtler nature aspects of the mind till you get to the very primordial mind, which is what's called the clear light mind, clear light of death, which has as its nature emptiness, and then that becomes a meditation object. But we can't. It's hard to access that when we've got too much of the gross sense consciousnesses and other mental processes. So that's it. So that's one of the reasons why these practitioners teach these techniques, so that we can access those very subtle states of mind. Good, huh? Pretty funky. Okay, we should stop now because otherwise it gets too long, and people have places to go. So on your way home, who are you? Where are you? Go to bed. Who am I? Where am I? And maybe we'll see you, different people. You'll all be different. I'll see you a whole bunch of different people next week.